premise is that him and his, I don't know if it's a girlfriend or wife, but they leave New York to unplug.
Got it.
And at that moment, there's an alien invasion.
Oh shit.
It's pretty funny.
That's great, dude.
Yeah.
Is it like they miss it because they're out?
Yeah, they miss it completely.
Then they come back and
they cheat. One of them like cheats to check on the phone, because like she can't stand being off of online, and she has like 20 messages being like, "Where are you? Like, what's happening?" This is all crazy. It's really funny.
Have you done a lot of like podcasting or talking into microphones like this?
I've done a lot of music, so I've like familiar with microphones in that context.
This is very flexible. Okay. You don't have to like lean to the edge of your seat. If you want to fucking chill out, I can go here. Taking a nap, you can do whatever you want.
Let's see.
Just try to stay like 2 fists away,
Okay.
But other than that, get comfortable and then pull it close. This is
that's
like
pretty good.
Weighted. You're good.
Yeah.
I would split the difference. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, cool. And I can still get my coffee here.
Yep.
Perfect.
So you can do the old reach around.
Mm-hmm.
There it is. And then I'm also going to help us both out and not make ourselves watch each other.
Fantastic.
It's like a Zoom call.
Yeah. Which thankfully,
what was that?
I don't have to. Well, actually, I did a lot of that in the pandemic. But
did you?
Yeah, because my side hustle is teaching music lessons to kids.
Fuck yeah, dude.
And when the pandemic hit, I was like, okay, not sure what I was going to do. And like I had, I guess maybe like 10 students. And I wasn't sure how teaching on Zoom was going to go and how well I would like it.
Dude, how is teaching music on Zoom? Like, you have a timing issue with that?
It was,
like
it kind of worked. No.
For real?
Well, yeah, because I mean, we're not playing together,
right.
like I kind of will show something and it's,
you go,
younger
I go.
kids, like 6 to 9 is kind of
you're doing intro stuff mostly.
Yeah. You know, I mean, like I've worked with kids as young as 3, which wouldn't have worked on Zoom, but I was pretty shocked at how adaptable these kids were to the technology, like it wasn't a thing. And it kind of forced me to be a better teacher because I had to say it more clearly over the Zoom.
Right.
I couldn't show it to them,
Yeah, and you don't want to ramble on because I feel like the attention span gets a little bit shorter on there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like I work like purely over Zoom. I've been doing it for like 2 years. I got a remote gig and I'm shooting TV shows over Zoom, like directing.
Wow.
They plug the camera into the call and I look at the framing on Zoom and I'm like, nah, move tilt,
That's
pan.
crazy.
Yeah.
But, and I mean, this
no, go ahead.
But like the resolution on Zoom doesn't affect like what you're seeing. Like, I guess you have like a camera that's like more what the frame is and then you're communicating through Zoom. Is that the idea?
It depends. Some sets are purely the DP is sending me screenshots from the device, like from the camera, sending it to me. And I'm looking at it on a monitor going like, all right, the shot is good. Don't touch it. And then there are other ones where we actually have the camera like HDMI through a capture card. And that is what I'm seeing. Okay. Like I'm seeing the frame live. I don't see the absolute full resolution, but that's also why we have a DP.
Gotcha.
Like if something that would escape me, but it's pretty fucking close, man. It's not like, pixelated or anything like that. It's like,
and is it 4K. Remote because it's not in LA or?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I shoot a TV show where it's like a reaction show where people are watching something and it's cutting between the show and people's reactions. And the people reacting are all over the fucking place. They're Florida, Utah, Connecticut, they're everywhere.
Huh.
So it saves everybody on travel because I don't have to go to all these crazy places. I can shoot, in Georgia on Thursday and Mexico on Friday.
Yeah.
And it works out.
I think that, I don't work in like the real world, but from what I'm told, I think that part of that is here to stay. Like, remote work and because companies like, oh, I don't have to fly you to Utah or Florida, or, oh, I don't have to pay rent for, however many employees. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, man, it really makes a difference. I mean, I think it's going to have a lot of weird fallout that we're going to have to dig into later after the fact because it's such a radical change. What is it doing to people's mental health, people's social lives, people's, how are the companies treating this cut in cost? Are they saying, okay, great, let's make a little savings, but also let's put some of that money back into making sure that these people have what they need? Or are they just going, wow, we got a huge fucking cut?
It's probably that.
I know. I think I'm saying both of them out loud as often as I can in hopes that it kind of balances out to some degree, because I know both are going to hopefully happen.
Yeah, but I think it will become company realizing it's a necessity.
Yeah.
That's, just
as much as possible, it will be. But it's also, man, I think overall it's going to be more pros than cons, if I'm guessing, because I think there are so many jobs that always could have been done from home. And when you have, if you treat, and this is how I feel like we talk about the workforce a lot, and it doesn't happen as much in theater because it's such a communal thing, but so many businesses treat almost everybody like they're just single people with low cost in their life. They don't have a sick family member to take care of. They don't have any kids. They don't have a wife in grad school who can't work. They don't have a whatever. And the companies are like, that's how we treat the employees. Like, this much money for you to live on, blah, blah, based on this. Not considering how many people have one or several of the things that I just said going on in their lives. Until someone forces them to be like, no, you have to let people off when they have a kid for a while. You have to, until someone yells at them to do it. They're like, aren't you all just single?
Right.
And with no expenditures
you have other things
at all?
to do besides working at this company?
We give you 10 days
shocking.
Vacation unpaid every year. So I don't understand why you keep asking for more money.
Yeah.
But the cool thing is, if you do have some of those things going on, it gets a lot easier when it's remote. If you've got a kid, if you've got a sick dad or a sick cousin or somebody who lives with you that you're taking care of, my wife is in grad school, is why I use that example. And it makes a huge difference on our ability to stay connected with each other. When you work in television, and theater is the same way, it can be like, when you're working in the entertainment business, they assume a 12-hour day, not an 8-hour day in a lot of situations. And so they are expecting you to fuck with the 12-hour a day, 5, maybe 6 days a week, maybe fucking 7. And that's people, the entertainment industry's never cared like, oh, is that affecting your social life? I'm sorry. Right. You didn't get to go to the birthday party. It sucks.
Yeah. And there is kind of an attitude that, people who work in the entertainment industry are lucky to be there. Which is true. And I do feel that personally. Like, I feel lucky to be able to do the work that I do and get paid to do it. But, you can only take that so far, before it becomes an abuse, a form of abuse. And I'm not even suggesting that that's where I feel.
Right.
But I know I have friends who work.
It's like you haven't witnessed it.
Yeah, not really. There are parts of like doing a show 8 times a week, 6 days a week, and only have the Monday off. That is tough.
Yeah.
It's tricky. But on the flip side of that, often theater jobs last 3 or 4 months,
Right.
So it's an intense period of time. And that's probably the same with film too. Like if you're lucky enough to do a TV show or a movie or whatever. On
the same TV show, it'll be 2 years in March, which we talk about it all the times, unfucking heard of.
Yeah.
And it's only because they make so many like iterations of the same show that we're able to keep doing it. But the only jobs I've had in the past that were any kind of regular was like, well, if you get asked back next year, it'll be another 3 months.
Right.
But that's it.
And the job you're at now, is it 12 months out of the year, or do you have like?
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
We take dark weeks, so I would say it's probably around like 45 guaranteed weeks a year.
That's great, though.
Which is almost all of it. Yeah. But there will be like, hey, 3rd week of March, you guys, there will be no work for you to have, and if you have some vacation days stacked up, I'd use them then. So that way you can get, kind
of treat it like a layoff. It's just like, this is,
Basically, it's like, they call it permalancing, like freelancing, but it just keeps happening over and over again with the same people.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't have a lot of gripes about my job. I love my job very much, but there is a legitimate argument to be made against the security of a job like that, because they're like, it's always like, all right, 3 more months. And then a month before that last one is supposed to cut off, you're lucky if they come back and they're like, hey, we got extended.
Right.
But that's also, that's TV, that's film, that's theater, that's like performing.
All of it. Yeah.
You don't run so rare do you have something that runs for like a decade. And even if it does, you're not guaranteed to come back every time.
Well, and then often the people who, actually, I shouldn't say that. I don't know that for a fact, but like I know that when you're in a job for a long time, it's easy for actors to want to complain about it because like, oh, I'm doing this again, blah, blah, blah. I want something,
Let's talk about that, dude, because that was fascinating to me. And I've talked to people on the show about it before, especially people who have done tours and Broadway and stuff that's like you said, 8 shows a week and all this crazy shit. So let's catch up a little bit. What are you in town for right now? You don't live in LA full time.
I don't. I am touring To Kill a Mockingbird.
Nice.
First national tour of the Broadway production of Aaron Sorkin's To Kill a Mockingbird, starring Richard Thomas, who was famous from the Waltons. That
Word up.
He was John Boy.
Yeah.
In that.
Good night.
That's right. Good night, John Boy. Prior to that, I was in and on Broadway for 10 months. I was in the ensemble. One of the bailiffs.
So have you been on this like kind of from the beginning of its happening or close
not from
to
the
it?
beginning? I was part of the first replacement cast. So I think it opened on the Broadway in 2018.
The Broadway.
Yeah. It was open for a year with Jeff Daniels as Atticus, and then
shit, I didn't know that. That sounds dope.
Pretty cool.
I love him.
Yeah, well, I actually got a chance to work with him post-pandemic. He came back to the show.
Hell yeah.
But pre-pandemic, I was part of the the first replacement cast.
Got it.
That starred Ed Harris.
Oh, wow. Nice. I like him too.
Yeah. And both of them very different.
Holy shit.
And actually in Richard too. All 3 of them very different, playing the same part and approaching it with different craft and technique. And I'm stealing from all of them, I think.
It's one of those things that you for sure, like one of those parts, like Atticus Finch is one of those parts that like, it's up there for like, especially male actors of a certain age. It's like, you kind of want to do it at some point if you get a chance, unless you're like super fucking wrong for it.
Right.
But if you're in the ballpark of that, you're like, that'd be a good one to do.
It's great. Yeah. And Atticus is on stage for at least, I would say like 70% of the play,
right?
Maybe, ballpark has a, and, I really like Sorkin's adaptation of it because he's, the idea of the movie or the Gregory Peck, that version, that's like the most iconic Atticus for sure. Like,
it's like Marlon's fucking Streetcar.
Absolutely. But what we tried to do for the 21st century is to kind of show him as more of a fallible character, like in the book,
less of a crusader and that kind of flawless.
And I think, people might have, based on where they come from and when they see the show, they have different, differentiating views as to how successful we are at that, but I think we are. I think there are, he has a journey of seeing the community that he's from, thinking one thing, thinking and understands them in a certain way, and by the end of the play, he understands them to be completely different. Yeah.
Have you grown up being like a big Sorkin fan? Did you watch a lot of his shit before you did this?
Not when I was young, but certainly in the past 15 years.
It goes over the head if you're not like, reading the Wall Street Times and New York Times and shit.
But West Wing, I had like definitely the first 3 seasons or 4 seasons that he wrote. I watch all those. And I think they're brilliant. Yeah. I think the writing and what I like
What's the Jeff Daniels one? Newsroom?
That's right.
I watched like I only caught like the majority, I think, of that first season.
Yeah, me too.
But man, that was a great show too.
Yeah, well, and Jeff Daniels has that speech at the beginning that I've watched that like 6 or 7 times.
The like pilot speech, right?
Yeah, and he has interviews talking about preparation for that speech where he just knew it cold, and he like worked it because it's like if I am questioning one word, I don't know it well enough. Yeah, and you can it shows.
Yeah, it's one of the better monologues I've seen in television. I think. Yeah, I don't want to be like overly dramatic about it, but it's really good. Legit, if you haven't seen that, go watch that. Yeah, I love it. You know what? It's crazy. I know this is very fanboy of me, but I love that walk and talk shit.
Oh, yeah.
The Sorkin walk and talk shot that follows him and they're handing papers and get the fuck out of here. Like all that, man. Yeah. That is one of my favorite filmmaking like tropes that
for sure
that is attributed to a very specific person that everyone's like, we just didn't do that shit. And then one day he was like, what if we fucking walk in front of him shooting backwards? Well, and it's so simple, but it's fucking great.
It's so good. And I think it gives a lot of agency to the actors too. You know, like you're not relying on cuts and like a lot of, you know, I haven't worked in film that much, but my observation of it, a lot of the performance is kind of dependent on the editor, you know, like
hugely
having a very good editor who understands the story and what kind of moments they're trying to, you know.
And depending on the director, you know, how much volume are they choosing in options to go through later? And or are they Clint Eastwooding it and like shooting it twice and being like, we got it. And like that was good and it's gonna be good later.
Right.
It's usually more in the first ballpark where you're shooting like 45 versions of it and shit. And then you're right, the editors ended up piecing together take 1 and 36 and 19 and
right.
That's crazy to me.
So yeah, me too. I mean,
it's hard for me to understand. As theater people, we're like, you get your shot.
Right.
You fucking do it once,
you do the show,
yeah.
You know. Yeah, it's a different kind of discipline, for sure. But yeah, I love that long shot really gives a little bit more agency to the actors in terms of, you know, I mean, you're always bringing your choices, but it's fully your choice because it's all in one thing.
That and it's also, you know, it's an automatic activity.
Right. Yeah.
Like, you know, because a lot of times, especially with film acting, it can be so segmented and broken up into, you know, well, we really only need your single for this half of the page. And we really, you know, if the director knows what they're putting together later, especially. But man, with that, don't fuck up.
Right.
You know, like more than anything else. That's your main activity is don't screw up this incredibly long piece or we have to go again.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I don't even know how many. I mean, I guess maybe you get used to it. You get used to doing that and figuring out what you need to know before you go through all that.
So I bet theater actors are good at that particular style.
Yeah, I hope so. I would think so. I
mean, how long have you been on tour?
8 months.
Oh, right? Shit, dude. That's like a really long time to me.
And we got a way to go. We're like, LA's like halfway through.
What?
Yeah.
You're doing like a year and a half?
Year and a half.
Wow, dude. How do you feel about that? I mean, you love it, and he's grateful, and it's it's the best job he's ever had. But that's a long fucking time to do the same show so many times in a row.
Yeah, but I would say when I got the offer to do it, I knew I wasn't going to turn it down because the opportunity was pretty great.
Yeah,
but I had some apprehensions about it, having I'm newly married.
Yeah.
And
where's she?
She's in New York, but she comes out on average once a month, and that's been terrific.
Wonderful.
And and also just the sheer length of it and the number of towns you go to, and just not knowing what life is going to be on the road, like that anticipation was more overwhelming than the actual experience of it.
How much touring at all had you done before this?
I had done one tour 9 years ago, Peter and the Starcatcher.
A fucking long time ago, man.
Yeah, and I was like 27.
How many cities was that?
Oh.
Or time? I mean,
it was 9 months.
Okay.
It was a lot. It was like probably, I guess like 20 to 30 cities.
But that's half.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Dude.
And I'd already done the show for 10 months before doing this run. So I think I've done it like at least 600 performances of the play in different iterations. But I will say that I've found this run, I'm not tired of it at all.
Great.
And I kind of had a aha moment. I had dinner with Richard Thomas, who's playing Atticus, like kind of on accident in Schenectady, and we were talking about the play.
You like bombarded him, and he had no choice.
Yeah. I was like, please, you need to have dinner with me. It's been 5 months, for Christ's sake.
Luke.
Yeah.
My name is Luke.
Yeah, exactly. Smith. Luke Smith. There aren't millions of us in the world. And he kind of was talking about, we were talking about meditation, because I've gotten into meditation on this tour that I find really useful, but like, he's really into meditation too. He kind of described the play as like, it's this ritual that we do every day, and that we know what's going to happen, but at the same time we don't, because we're different today than we were yesterday. And, you kind of like, I'm trying to word this right, but you kind of give over to that ritual every performance, every night. And that idea is really exciting to me. It helps keep the play fresh to me because I don't feel responsible for making it exactly the same as I did yesterday. Even though, we're hitting the same beats, the same rhythms. Of course. Those things are kind of built in from rehearsal. But if I have thoughts that are different from yesterday, I'm going to use them, I'm going to play off them and, trust that I know the world of the play enough that if it's different from yesterday, it's still true to the world of the play. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. And it also sound like, not to sound overly pretentious, but it sounds like what acting should be. You know, like that's kind of what we learned. Like when we studied acting for several years, the idea was organic and, being in the space.
In my experience, I feel like I'm relearning those lessons over and over because it's one thing to know them intellectually, but
of course,
I find that I'm always teaching my body to
practice it,
to trust it.
Right.
To really give over to it because, you have a standard for yourself that you're trying to match or you're trying to get to. And you try not to think about people having opinions of you, but that's human. And you kind of like, you want to do well. And so you're like, oh, how's it going? Is the audience like it? Are they laughing enough? Are they not laughing enough? Like, all those thoughts that are not helpful to the thing itself, there's a lot of work you have to do to kind of let that go, and so I've been finding really enjoying that, in this process.
That's awesome. Yeah. And you get a lot of chances to keep trying it if one day you feel like you didn't get a hold of it.
Yeah, if I mess it up, like I'm going to do it again tomorrow.
Well, I don't just mean like the performance. Like hopefully you don't feel like you like totally eat shit on the performance, but like on practicing that shit that like Mary used to say, which I think is a Kristen Linklater thing, but the work works and you have to let it.
Right.
Like it's in there. It's all in there. You learned it. You got it. You're ready. Especially with this. I mean, 600 fucking plus performances. It's in there.
Right.
It's all in there.
But, in any given day, for whatever reason, you could not trust it for some reason.
Of course.
So you build these tools to kind of, or use the tools that we got from school, and then you keep building them outside of school to kind of, try to get to that again,
So I'm going to go back because I feel like we kind of Tarantino'd it. We just started with the result and where you're up to right now.
Oh, okay, sure.
Because I've never had you on At the Elephants before, and I'm so excited that you're here for this.
Yeah, I'm really honored to be asked, to be honest. Yeah.
It is one of my favorite things I have people who ask me. I don't have any problems with that. Fucking ask me if you want to do the show and I just haven't talked to you yet and you're eager to do it. Let me know and we'll make it happen 100%. I'm recording way too many of these right now, but I'm going to keep doing that because I think there's tremendous value in sharing everybody's story and whether it's successes or struggles or neither. I really think all three of those things are incredibly helpful. A lot of times people talk about doing this show and they're like, I don't know what I would talk about. I was like, have you been alive?
Right.
That's what we talk about. Like whatever the fuck you're doing. And it's not, I want to sit here and read people's resumes and be like, well, how was that show? And how was this thing? If something comes up, great. But I'm just interested in, it's almost a giant like group think study to be like, what happens after you do what we did? Mm-hmm. It's fascinating to me. Mm-hmm. And it's fucking 70 episodes or whatever. And I've not stopped being like, huh.
Right.
Like it still happens all the time. I hear some recurring themes for sure. So with that being said, I only have one like stock question that I ask everybody on At the Elephants. And it is, where are you from?
I'm from Annapolis, Maryland.
Oh shit. I did not actually know that, I don't think.
Yeah. Well, I was a bit of I kind of kept to myself in school.
Sure.
A lot,
we only did one show together, I think.
Yeah, I guess
we did two, but the first one we had no interaction.
Oh.
You were in the band for Two Gentlemen of Verona, the rock opera.
Yeah, yeah.
I was follow spot as a first year DMP kid.
Oh, nice.
And so I was like tracking Ryan and Alex on which were my friends. And it was that was, dude, that was one of my favorite fucking things I've ever. I never got tired of watching it.
Yeah.
Of all the different things that I've seen before, because there was so much improv, there was so much freedom for them to be different. The music was fucking dope because you guys like made it all up, like
so
new
fun.
shit.
Yeah, yeah.
And then we did Harper's Ferry together. Little change of pace.
Yeah, a little change of pace. I saw, I looked it up today. I was like, Harper's Ferry. There was, the Winston-Salem Journal said something like, it was like something, there was like a positive word, but like positive, but a little dull,
Oh, it was like one of those backhanded compliments.
Yeah. I didn't dare read it because I'm sure, just
it was a little dull.
Yeah.
It was very, very serious about Harper's Ferry, the story from the Civil War and John Brown, the abolitionists and all this stuff. And with a cast of 186 students.
Right. And
I think there were 120 in the drama school, but we somehow had 186 people in it.
We did one show for like 5 people.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Well, I was assistant directing, but I was in it also.
Yeah,
we all were.
Right.
All the ADs, because there were 4 ADs.
Oh, my Lord.
It was me and Thomas Rowell and Ben Carbo and Sameep. And I was also a second year. But Gerald had already accepted me into the directing program. And he was like, instead of doing Shakespeare project with Matt and Caroline, go to Harper's Ferry. That's going to be your thing for the term. And so, first of all, second year directing student on a show, weird. And then also, like a 4-line part in the second act, or whatever the fuck it was. And we had 2 chicks. Right? I think it was 3 if you count Ellen Rosenberg from the faculty who was in the show.
She crushed it.
She was great.
She's amazing.
I ended up becoming really good buddies with her. I would love to get her on the show. I audited her theater history class that everyone like dreaded going to. Wow. But I was like, I don't have to do the homework or the tests. She's a pretty fucking interesting teacher.
Yeah. She was good. Really good.
We had Hallie and Jackie, I think. But other than that, there were 186 men.
Bunch of dudes.
In this show. It was almost every male actor in the 3rd and 4th class, I think, because then the rest of the plays were all the women.
I don't remember what the other plays were at that time.
I don't either. I think Bullock did the comedy with all the chicks in the South.
Oh yeah.
I'm never gonna remember what it was called, but it's almost like it's not a rom-com by any means. It's got some drama to it, but it was fucking hilarious.
Oh, man.
It was really funny, but I don't remember otherwise.
I don't think I laughed that entire spring semester because it was like John Brown in it.
So again, I try my best usually to not talk about school because I say this every time, I feel like people are like, I wasn't there for that. I don't give a shit. But the memories I have of people that stick with me, I often do share because I'm like, I haven't seen you in fucking 10 years or some shit. And I'm like, what do I remember you playing in the band in fucking 2 Gents. And I remember doing Harper's Ferry with you and you had this massive, role that not only was like really huge, it was one of those like, you've got to play at 22 or however old you were.
Yeah.
A man in his late 40s, early 50s that's like trying to end insane. The fucking Civil War or start it, I guess, and end slavery. Like a lot to think about in your early 20s.
Yeah.
But you crushed that shit, dude.
Oh,
I truly remember like being like, this is a big thing. Almost like too big to, why are we giving this to kids? Holy shit. Can they play a kid? Can we do like One Tree Hill the musical or something and just like play some fucking kids? But you're playing John Brown and you did a great fucking job. I always really thought that you crushed that role. But one of my main memories is the first read through. Do you remember how that started?
No.
I'm going to get the quote wrong, but there's like 1 million people in this play. So we're doing the first read through and I was exaggerating before, but there's probably 30 people at this table read, at least, maybe closer to 40. It was so many people. There were second years, third and fourth years. It was half the drama school, all the men, all the people of color, or I should say all the men of color, because there were only the 2 women, but they were all in it. Jonathan Majors was in it. Everybody was fucking in it. And we have the first table read and dude, you have like the first line of the play. It's like it's like this, like out to the audience, like kind of declaration, like almost like we're doing the, one of those elementary recitals where they tell you about the Civil War. Like John Brown comes out and is like, reads a poem or some shit.
Yeah.
You have the first couple of lines and we all gather. It's like 9 a.m. on a weekend, I think. We're in like a design studio. And this is like one of the only memories I have from doing that show. We start the table read and Dude, you get like 2 lines into it and like step on your words. And you were so clearly like tea, water, fucking crack the neck. Like, dude, you were like ready. You're like, I have to play John Brown. Holy shit. And you're like, and it was easily the biggest part you had at school.
Oh yeah.
Like far and away the biggest role that you had to like carry a show. And you have to read the first few lines. And we got poor old Vincent Price, John Dillon as our director.
Yeah.
I've assisted like 3 or 4 times. I love him so much. And he comes out and makes his little speech. I mean, it sounds very much like Vincent Price. Yeah, okay. Yeah. And he's like, all right, we're going to do this. Right, and everyone. Very, Luke, take it away. It was something like that. It was like, let's go. All right, John Brown. And you're like, again, I've been thinking about this all week. Yep. I got to say this whole fucking play in front of these people and be 50. I'm 50.
50. Yeah. Well, how 50, 48, 50. Got it.
Something, right. Yeah.
There it is.
And so you're there and you get like the first sentence or the second sentence you get, and you just go, God, fuck. Like in front of everyone. Like you like stumbled a word and then like just immediately broke character. It was so like you were a musician who played the wrong note and you're like, cut.
God damn it.
Go back. God. And he immediately recovered and you're like, can we go again?
Yeah. Oh,
and then we were like, he was like, okay, let's go one more time. And everyone, but it was great because it broke the tension of what was about to be an extremely serious play.
Yeah. Yeah.
I laughed my fucking ass off. I probably didn't pay attention to the first 20 minutes of the read because I couldn't stop laughing at the idea that that's how you handled making the mistake. And anybody who's listening to this who like didn't go to school with us, typically if you stumbled a word, just keep going. No one was going to give a fuck. But you were so clearly like, all right, 6, 7, 8, like boom, the count started and it didn't go how you wanted it to go.
It was like, yeah. Let's go back to first year drama school, everybody.
Dude, like you stubbed your toe. It was like, oh, fucking shit.
I mean, I hear that story and I would think, I do think I took that a little too seriously.
Yeah, you did. That's what's hilarious about the story.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah. I might have been a little uptight. I'm not sure.
But you had your rehearsal vest with your shirt. Like it was so ready to go. And it is, dude, to this day, there's just nothing funnier to me than someone who has all that tension on the line and is ready to do it exactly right. And then they just, the first step they make, they trip over their own toe. And it's fucking the best part about theater school is like, first of all, this is a school and it's Harper's Ferry. So like, it's going to be okay. It's not that big of a deal. It's not an audition for you anywhere.
Right.
And it was just the first read. We weren't even standing up.
Yeah.
It couldn't have been really lower stakes. But for you at that point, for you, it was a lot. And it was all built up to that thing. And it was so great because in a weird way, your like uptightness that crumbled into your just kind of like losing your shit and then getting focused back in. It actually was a benefit to the whole room because we were all coming off of like the director's speech of like, well, it's a play about slavery and we're going to be, and it was very like heavy and he's a funny dude, but the tone had kind of been set really serious and we're all also strapping in for not a short read through.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not funny.
Right.
The play's not fucking funny. It's just serious. The whole 2 or 3 hours of trying to end slavery. Mm-hmm. Fuck.
Yeah.
But you broke the fucking ice in the whole room.
Whether I meant to or not.
You didn't mean to. And that was the best part. And it actually taught me a lesson that I went on as a director and as a TV producer and all the stuff I do. If I can, it's almost like, and I started doing stand-up and it's the same rule. You got 30 seconds to loosen everybody up with something funny. Mm-hmm. You don't get up on a stand-up set and do a 5-minute bit that isn't funny for 4.5 minutes.
Right. Because the audience is like, where are we going?
Out.
Yeah.
60 seconds in, they're out. It's that fast. And in a way, you kind of broke us all up and then squeezed us back in together with this like total mishap. And I remember thinking like, just that it was hilarious, but not taking long to be like, that had value. That was like because you ended up doing something on accident that really needed to happen in the space. And it also taught me that like, that what seems like a stumble in the very beginning, you fuck up your first line, your first note's off key, whatever the fuck, get it out of the way.
Right.
Because you don't want to have that tension of, I've been playing it perfect this whole time.
Right.
When's the fuck up coming? It has to. No one does anything at 100%. It's going to be 99 at best.
Right. And I think, the older I get, the more I think speaking to what you're talking about, like relaxation is so important. And
yeah, dude,
to break the ice with something funny is great. Just like being present and just like, when we start the play, we have a thing called the Make 'em Social.
Okay.
Make 'em's the made up town,
right?
Where we get called to places and we go all on stage because there's a curtain at the top of the show.
Oh, right.
So we all just stand up there and just talk to each other, just like
kind of like your background extras, and you were given no dialogue. You
just
go get in character and be there with those people.
Yeah, but like I think in school I put so much importance on being in character for like over 15, 20 minutes throughout the day, maybe, before doing the play.
Right.
And again, going back to that idea of rituals, like, one thing that Richard said is like, we are the character. I am this, it is me coming up there. I don't need to work it, like I need to do the work to, obviously know the lines, know the beats of the scene, know the story, knowing, where we're trying to go. But if I try to cook it up all the time, if I'm always just working, I'm putting so much energy in that.
Right.
I don't even have that much to be present on stage. So like that moment before the play is kind of important for me, for my process, because I can actually just look at you in the eye, say, how are you? You're my acting partner. We're doing a play. This is real life. Yeah. There's going to be an audience looking at us.
Right.
Those are all elements that I was like, I can't think about that because I'm not being the character. I'm not being honest.
Right. It's all or nothing.
And just where I am now in my process, it might change in 10 years. I just feel like I'd rather be relaxed and present and breathing and then step on and then play the scene.
I don't think that's going to change in 10 years.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I think the farther you go, the more you're going to value that relaxation because it's also, you got a long ways to go until it becomes like maybe a downhill experience in the things that are easy now. Moving around physically, you think like, I don't know how much you've worked with actors over 60.
Mm-hmm. A bunch in this play, actually.
Yeah. Makes sense. They can be in a myriad of different shapes mentally and physically, but I've directed a lot of people over the age of 55, 60, and fucking amazing actors and great performers. But there can be little things that are in the way for them, just like their memory's not as sharp, the physical part of moving around and standing for a whole hour-long scene or some shit. Like, that's hard work on someone at that point.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you're performing at that age, you're going to want to have some comfort and relaxation that like, I got this, And if I have a moment where the line escapes me, it will show up.
Yeah, and when that happens with the actors who are plus 55 or whatever, man, they handle it like pros, because at that point you've been doing it for so long, you just know what every moment is different from the next, but you just know what the moment is. You know what the moment what it feels to be having that chemistry between your partner, like having something happening is. Gerald loved to say, they just know what that is. It comes so effortltlessly.
I directed Matt Bullock in something while I was at school, like senior year, and and he wasn't able to do the performance at the last minute because he had health issues, which we know. But but for the whole rehearsal process, he definitely struggled with lines. But that dude didn't leave the moment ever for that line, He's like, what the fuck? You fucking with the Rob, give it to me. But he stayed right there. It wasn't like
because the line is secondary to
what
that.
What is it? No, he's not leaving that moment. Right. Yeah,
the moment is what you're figuring out in that rehearsal process, and the moment is more important than getting the line right.
Yeah,
at that point in rehearsal,
it'll show up. It's also evidence that like. Things can get cut from scripts and the show goes on. That happens a lot of times when we do plays. Can't do a line because the set doesn't conform to will you close the window or whatever? Well, we didn't build any fucking windows. So we just cut that. And we just won't close the window.
Mm-hmm.
Like shit like that happens and the play still happens and occurs. It's not about the window.
Right.
Usually.
Right. You probably shouldn't cut Juliet dying at the end of the play, but like Romeo and Juliet.
I really don't appreciate being told how to adapt things, Luke. If I want to tell the story that I think is not being told,
you're an artiste,
right?
Yeah,
I'm gonna go where I need to go.
Yeah, you know what? I take it back. You're right. Fuck that girl.
So exactly. Thank you. Yeah, how many times do I have to? As long as somebody gets it.
I hope somebody cuts just that me saying that and completely out of context, and I get
Oh yeah,
thrown under the bus for some reason.
I'm gonna do that.
Perfect.
Yeah, 100%.
That's why.
Make sure
that's what I'm looking for here.
Let me know what you definitely don't want it to be followed after.
Yeah, great.
And I'll go get that.
Yeah, perfect.
No problem.
Perfect.
Okay, so Maryland, Annapolis.
Yep.
And then what takes you to school in North Carolina?
I went to NYU first. I went to NYU for 2 years.
I thought maybe you were like at another place first. That's very vaguely in my head.
I was a voice major. Like I was pursuing a Bachelor of Music and Music Theater for voice.
Got it.
And after 2 years, I had to leave because it was no longer affordable to my folks. I don't think it was actually affordable.
It probably wasn't to begin with then, because it's insane.
Yeah, and it's only gotten more
I think
outrageous.
Back then it was like $55 a year,
yeah,
60 or some crazy
now it's like
shit.
75.
Oh yeah, now it's even more insane.
Yeah. So I took a year off. Not knowing what I wanted to do. But in that year, I ended up kind of like working at theaters in DC. Like I understudied 2 shows at Signature Theater in Arlington. I ended up doing Godspell at Olney Theater Center in the summer of the year before I went to North Carolina. And, but backtracking a little bit, within that year, I wasn't sure what I was going to do, but we knew this woman, Joanne Woodard, who was like
from Houston.
Oh, you know her,
dude.
Yeah,
yeah, 100%.
Oh wow,
yeah, for a bunch of reasons.
Great.
The main one being I'm from Texas.
Oh,
I didn't meet her while I was in Texas, but the main thing she would bring students to when she visited campus was directing class.
Oh, okay, cool.
Like because she was in love with Gerald for good reason.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it was always like, I have some students visiting, and I've got this young man or young lady who's maybe interested, I don't know, in directing. Can she come sit in on one of the classes? So I want to say in the 2 years I was in the directing program, man, she was probably in our directing class 6 or 7 times.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So she's the reason I was there. I met up with
Houston.
her.
How'd you meet her?
So she knew my brother first.
Okay.
I can't remember how it happened, but my brother ended up going to University of Miami for music theater.
Okay.
On scholarship.
Older brother?
Younger. And he was choosing between scholarship there or Northwestern, where we would have had to take a lot of debt for him to go there. And I think it was the
guys had bougie tastes in college.
Stupid. Yeah, just so stupid.
It worked out, bro.
It worked out fine, but it could have been cheaper.
Yeah.
The dean of Miami, I think, knew Joanne Woodard.
Okay.
And Joanne talk to us about this is a great school and they're going to give you money. You should do that,
She was a huge, man, it was like she was the road salesman for NCSA. She was...
Well, yeah, I wasn't that aware of the school, but I met her and she was like, if you were to go back to school for theater again, what would you want to study? I was like, I want to focus on acting.
Right.
Because the music program at NYU, for me, at the time... made everything feel so constricted. The rules were too tight.
They wouldn't let you play an abolitionist.
Yeah, exactly.
Begged and pleaded.
Yeah, forever. You know?
We don't really tell that story here anymore.
It's crazy. Yeah. We can do Bye Bye Birdie.
You know where they tell that story? In North Carolina.
Damn right. Well, and so she, turned me on to this school, and she prepped me audition. I did some All My Sons, which is hilarious because we do that first year, or at least we did. I don't know if they do that anymore, but
oh yeah, I don't know. That was a Matt Bullock thing.
That was a Matt Bullock thing, and I have a vivid memory. Was one of the best pieces of advice I've gotten on acting was from her. I was doing a monologue with her, getting ready for the audition, and she said, let's see if I can remember it. People aren't interested in you being perfect. it is your imperfections that make you interesting.
Fuck yeah. That's great advice.
And then
hard to hear when you're young, but
right.
very, very good advice.
And then I did the monologue after that, and it felt amazing. And I don't think I ever did it that good as I did like in that moment.
After she gave you that.
But boy, I still think about that, you know. And in the context of our conversation of like, you know, John Brown, you know, I should have been a little bit more but, you know, 24 or whatever.
I don't know, man. I don't think he relaxed a lot.
Have you seen the Ethan Hawke one?
No.
It's on Showtime. It's got a bird in the title.
Is he playing John Brown?
He plays John Brown.
Oh,
and
shit.
He's pretty funny in it. Like
really?
he's crazy, you know, but like he kind of embraced the insanity of that man, you know, more than I would have had appreciation for, because I was too wrapped up in trying to be a good actor.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And
rather than
fucking play age 20 years over.
Right. Yeah.
It is so hard.
Yeah.
It is such an incredibly difficult thing. Well, and unless you have exactly the right piece of material, you're being set up. Right. In a way, you're never going to be great at playing John Brown when you're 22. Like it just,
and it's also not the point. It's like
exactly
the stretch is.
It's like when they give you the fucking, you know, song in singing class that you're like, I can't sing this though.
Right.
And Greg is like, I know, that's why I'm giving it to you, to get you closer to it. Mm-hmm. You know, very rarely does it ever happen. The only time I ever saw that at school where people were playing age and it kind of worked, not on every actor, but a lot, was my senior year. We did August Osage County, which is,
I heard that was great. Matt directed that.
Matt directed that. I was his assistant, and it was like, dude, I mean, was there like one character under 21 in the whole play? There's like a teenager,
right? And
then everyone else, there's a few 30-somethings, and there's a bunch of old fuckers in that show. Like everyone in that play is over 40.
Right.
And it was good. Yeah. It was watchable. We had a great wig and makeup team, and they almost, you know, the actors did, you know, their best kind of mask work on playing these older characters and embracing the physicalities and all that kind of stuff. But it also is a comedy, man. I mean, it's a very dramatic story, and it has its screaming and yelling and heartbreak, but it's fucking funny as shit.
Yeah.
And that, I feel like, gives you a lot more accessibility when you're younger trying to play older. If it's kind of funny, you can play into some of your impulses of, oh, well, I don't need to worry about so much about like, oh, my back hurts, like when it doesn't.
Right.
But I'm like, I know what it means to make people laugh. And in this scene, I can do that. And I don't have to do it by like being old. Right. Like, you know, it's like, I don't have to like do that. Yeah. So it doesn't, it's a tough thing. All right. So you leave school, then what happens?
When I leave North Carolina.
Yeah. How old are you, by the way? I feel like we're like close to the same age.
36.
Oh, I'm 34. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, we are
much closer. Yeah.
So I leave school and I land in New York.
How much younger is your brother?
He's your age. He's 2 years younger.
Okay, got
You're
it.
a year and a half. We're very close. And he lives in New York too.
Got it. So you head to New York post showcase?
Post showcase. And
how'd that go for you?
It went well. You know, I've had the same agent since.
Great.
It's, you know, it's like mid-sized boutique agents, it's kind of, it just suits me better. Like another reason why NYU was not good for me was it was just so huge. Yeah. And I grew up going to a really small school and I just couldn't, it was too overwhelming. So like I knew going out of school that I didn't want to be with a humongous agency because I think I would just get lost and, you know, lost in the ocean.
Yeah, for sure.
So I've been with my guys since. They've been very supportive, you know, throughout the whole, and, you know, throughout the development of my career, which has been great. And I got like a music theater showcase the summer of 2011, which is when I graduated. That got me my equity card.
Nice.
The next year I did Buddy Holly story at the Walnut Theater in Philadelphia. And then
Were you Buddy Holly?
I wasn't. I was the fourth cricket. The best fourth cricket you've ever seen.
I believe that.
Yeah. I mean, maybe. I think you'd have to look very closely to really.
You seem like you would like look good in those glasses.
Yeah. A part that I would be right, but I don't need to do that show ever again.
Got it.
Because I actually had done it at a dinner theater like years before that as a fourth cricket again. I mean, the songs are great, but it's, whatever. It's a jukebox musical.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with it, but not what serves my appetites.
You'd be great in Forever Plaid. Have you ever done that show?
Oh no, but I sang some of that in school.
I fucking love that show. I saw it when I was in high school. We did it at my community theater, and I like ran the lights or something. I don't remember. I was in the booth, but it was another one of the very few shows I've ever been a part of where I was like, "Let's go." Every night, I'm like, I can't wait to watch
Quartet
it, and it's funny.
Yeah.
Forever Plaid is fucking hysterical. It's
Greg
a silly comedy.
He was like one of the OGs, right? Yeah, okay, toured it.
Yeah, I think not like OG, but he was in it for a long time.
Yeah.
And played one of the like my favorite parts, and it's just so fun because it's only the four of them.
Mm-hmm.
There's no one else in the whole cast.
Right.
And it's the music, and I love that 4-part harmony shit.
Yeah,
it's so fun,
so good.
So you got your fill of that though. On that show.
Yeah, and Buddy Holly. It was a fun summer. And like I had a couple jobs in between that, but then the next year was Peter and the Starcatcher.
Right.
I did that for 9 months. Learned a lot on that job. About comedic timing. It's a lot of turning out to the audience type thing, and a lot of physical comedy. It was tough on the body for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess long story short, I've kind of had an acting job every year since I graduated.
That's pretty cool,
sometimes
man.
It's for like a week. Sometimes
You've
it's
been
for
out
a couple
since
months.
2011.
2011.
Yeah. That's a pretty good run so far, man.
It's okay. I guess I'm an actor. There's still the feeling of like,
Jesus, man, how much do you got to fucking do to feel like that's there?
That's my struggle.
Is it you, or is it like a thing just with that job?
I think it's a thing.
I don't think it's just you.
Yeah. I think it's
what would have to happen?
Well, it's the nature of the thing. Like we were talking about before, you don't, when the job ends, you don't necessarily know what the next one's going to be. Often you don't know what the next one's going to be.
Yeah, but serious question. Like if you were a carpenter and you weren't constantly building a house or furniture or something like that, it doesn't make you not a carpenter the day that you don't have a house to build.
That's true.
You're, like if you went back in time and you met like in the John Brown time, you're like in the 1860s, and they're like, yeah, he's a blacksmith. It's like, oh, well, is he making anything out of metal this week? He's like, no, I think he's in between jobs. Well, I wouldn't really call him a blacksmith then.
Yeah.
Like, it's the only thing he does. That he's the blacksmith, man. Don't be an asshole.
Right.
Like if you need metal shit made, there's no one else in town that does that. He's the blacksmith. It doesn't matter if he's constantly employed in metalwork, right?
That's true, but I think the difference is, I mean, for actors, even actors who've achieved a certain level of success, like I remember watching Gabriel Byrne being interviewed by Will Rogers. Will Rogers, a NCSA alum, right?
Yeah.
And it's a really great conversation. But at some point in their interview, Gabriel Byrne talks about a dry spell, like after he'd been established, of like 2 years.
Sure.
And just feeling like this feeling of like, who am I? Like, what am I doing? And it's just the fact that there can be droughts, just such long droughts between gigs.
Right.
I think it's a little bit more of a strain on our character and our self-identity, especially like in America, like everything's kind of identified with what you do. Like, when you meet people, I feel like the first question is like, so what do you do? What are you doing in New York? Or what do you do in LA?
Of course. Yeah.
And so but I think in the flip side of the coin is a bit of a blessing because you're forced to examine that about yourself. Like, who am I?
Yeah, but if you were, dude, okay, so you've been acting every year for 11 years, right?
I guess so.
Yeah. No, I'm telling you, based on what you just told me, for 11 years,
I just tell you that?
You did.
Is that true?
You said that.
Yeah.
That you've been acting. Let's say you acted for another 9 years, dude, and you've been acting every year for 20 years, and then you don't for 3 years, literally because no one will hire you, totally based on the shit you go out for. You don't get canceled. You're not blacklisted. People aren't mad at you. You just don't book anything. Like, how could your toughest critic be like, you're not an actor anymore? That's crazy to me.
But you don't know the voice in this head, though. It is
I know,
strong.
But
that's what we're talking about. All this meditation and stuff I'm doing is to make sure that voice that voice will never be silenced.
I guess.
You
better than me, but I'm just saying, like, I feel
in my
like
experience,
I feel like you don't necessarily have to accept that, though. That at some point you can give yourself permission.
I don't think you have to.
Like,
I don't think you have to accept
it's okay.
it. I think for me, I have to dance with it. I have to.
It's very poetic. I like that.
Because it's just there. You know, it's part of Luke. You know, and maybe it's different for Rob or whoever's listening.
No,
like
I'm sure it is.
What the that self-doubt, how it expresses itself, you know, and in its worst moments for me, it's like you're not an actor.
Do you know why I think that is? Without putting like any onus on you, like I do think there is some personal responsibility, and if you really wanted to meditate on it and like fucking get therapy or whatever you want to do to make it a truth in your mind that you've now spent decades committed to this practice. It is part of who you are. And even if you stop for a long time, it won't stop being at least the thing you can do.
Yes.
But I think part of it is how people respond to that question at the party. People are like, hey, what's up, Luke? Nice to meet you. What do you do? I'm an actor. Oh, that's cool. The next few sentences make a big fucking difference to us. If you were like, I am a carpenter, they wouldn't be like, you building anything right now? Have I seen anything you've built? You'd be like, oh man, that's cool. That's a lot of hard work, they'd say. And you'd go, it is, but you know what? I like working with my hands. I like standing back after something's been built and going, hey, I made that. That could be the conversation from people about acting.
Yeah.
Wow, acting, that sounds like a lot of hard work. It is, but you know what? I like being in there with my hands and doing it. And when I stand back from something I acted in, I'm like, that's fucking cool. But people don't respond that way. It's, what are you in right now? Or have I seen you on a television screen or a film screen?
What are you working on next? You know,
and what's next if you're not working right now? It's not our fault that people are so unreasonable at these parties when it comes to this profession. But that is what I think soaks into your head over time.
I think you're very right.
Because if it were one of these other skill sets, my dude, you would give, I truly think because of how those next few questions go in the social world, you would give yourself more slack to be like, I'm never not a carpenter, dude. I've been doing it for 25 years.
Right.
Like, am I only a carpenter? No, I'm a husband. No, I'm a parent. No, I'm a son. I'm take it out of family. I'm a guitarist and musician. I sing. I can do all sorts of shit. Dude, I've spent serious time doing stand-up comedy. A lot of hours on stage overall. Did I ever make it to headlining clubs and sustaining my living on it? No, absolutely not. Kind of quit doing it before that even got close because I was like, I don't like this. Do I consider myself a comedian? Sometimes, sometimes not, though I don't feel bad if I'm not. I know how to do stand-up. I know how to play the drums. I know how to do all sorts of shit. And you can't ever take that away from me. So to a degree, I'm a comic. I'm a drummer. I'm an actor. I'm fucking acted in 10 years, man. I'm an actor too. Yeah. God damn it.
I'm sure
and you've been acting way
fucking
more than me.
Yeah, but I'm sure you definitely. My like memory of you from school.
Oh shit.
I'll give you this. I think it was the first time I saw you. Like at all. You were in a play. I think it was a director's project.
Bryn Harris's third year directing scene with Brandon and Bryant Hernandez.
And you were like playing video games?
Like Guitar Hero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember watching you.
I was a waiter at IHOP. I didn't go to school there.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you weren't even in school yet?
No.
I just remember just thinking like, man, that dude is so relaxed. Like you're so like in it. Like you weren't working hard at it at all. And it you know, that's something that I find difficult.
You're like, who the fuck is this?
Yeah,
also,
why are you so good? And like,
well,
what are you doing here?
But like, who is it? Yeah. Like, especially if you didn't know who I was at all. That story is so crazy, and it's not like a long, interesting story, but it is it is part of like, if I ever read a book or something, that's a whole chapter is how I got into School of the Arts is really unconventional and weird. I was in DMP and drama, and I never auditioned for the drama school. I have not found anyone else who ever got in without auditioning. I wasn't like given a free pass, but I was in that.
That was like your audition, pretty much?
Essentially, I offered Gerald to audition, like do a monologue and the songs and all that shit. And he was like, I don't see the point.
Right.
He's like, I know.
I know what you can do.
I was like, yeah, it feels like pressure to me. Cause now I'm like, I better not do badly for the rest of my time. Because later it'll be like, I fucking should have made you do a monologue, man. I would have known. I would have known I was fucking up. Yeah. But no, so I've been best friends with Brandon Harris since I was in the 5th grade. He's like my oldest friend. I had totally quit college. I went out of high school to community college. I was a really shit student at both and then quit. And I was like, I fucking hate school. I knew I shouldn't have gone to fucking school again and got a job. And Brandon was like, you should come to School of the Arts. And I was like, they're never going to let me in. I have fucking 2.1 GPA out of high school. And he was like, they're not so much concerned about that, especially if you don't do the academic program, because there's an option to just get like the arts diploma. And he was like, so maybe this. And I was like, man, I suck at school. He's like, this is not school like you think it is.
Right.
It's very different. Mm-hmm. And I was like, he's like, especially if you don't do academics, man, you might write 1 paper, 2 papers the whole time you're here. That's not what this is. It's theater all day. And I was like, okay. And I moved there. I was supposed to be in lighting design. And then I didn't have enough money to pay out-of-state tuition first year. Mm-hmm. So I had to like stay in town as like a townie and get in-state. Yeah. And so for that year, I lived with Brandon and Ryan Rowitz and this classical guitarist named John Russell. And we all lived on Green Street together. Mm-hmm. And fucking I worked at IHOP while they went to school all day. I did that for like a whole year. And Bryn, who was in the directing program in Brandon's class and Ryan's class, I just became friends with her and got to know her over the school year. And when it came to the end of the year, she was trying to cast her directing project. And I think asked a few people, they either couldn't do it or they weren't available, whatever. And she went to Gerald and was like, I want to cast someone not in the drama school. And he was like, we don't really do that. And she was like, well, I really think this is the right guy, because literally it's Brandon's roommate.
Right.
And he needs to play Brandon's roommate.
Right.
And Brandon's a little stiff still at this point, acting wise, which I think he would agree. Senior year is really when he like opened up and got fucking like supercharged and really figured some shit out. But 3rd year is still kind of tense and figuring out shit. And she was like, nothing will make this easier for me if Brandon has his real life longtime best friend and roommate on stage with him. And so, dude, that's part of why everyone was like very nice to me about the performance. I was like, I was cast as me.
Right.
And I was given the like,
but not everybody can do that.
If they're Joey and Chandler, I was given the Joey role, just like fun. Hey man, just fucking chill out. That's what you should do. Play Guitar Hero, which was our Guitar Hero from the house.
Right. But that, just playing me, that sounds easier than it actually is.
Yeah, I suppose that's true.
I think
I'm guilty of doing that in almost every role I've ever had.
Right, but there's some actors who've made a lot of money doing that.
That's true.
You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with it.
People are like, he's the same in everything. He's like, he doesn't get paid the same in everything. You notice it keeps going up.
And like, if that's honest though, then who cares?
Right.
That's the point. Like I'm certainly enamored with the actors who are able to create honestly all these different kinds of characters, and like that's kind of like what I try to do, for better or for worse. But like sometimes it's simpler, just like what do you want?
Have you gotten a lot of opportunities after school and all these different acting jobs you have? Have you gotten a lot of chances to play things that are close to Luke?
Some. I did a musical at Signature Theater in Virginia that was, felt pretty close to me.
What was that guy like?
He was younger, but kind of unsure of himself, but caring. You
exude more confidence than I think. It feels like getting to know you better in this interview than you feel like you have.
That's good. As long as it looks like I'm confident.
I've always thought of you as like a tremendously confident person.
I think I I am in certain
and a little
regards.
At ease, not like tremendously confident. Like we both went to school with like Jonathan Majors, and while he was at school, he's one of the people who goes off in my head as like, man, his focus at learning while he was at college. There were no parties there. I mean, he was there to learn how to act.
Yeah.
And in every single moment when everyone else was like, I think we got it, he was like, why not go 80 more times? Like he was that guy then.
You can't, he's the most ambitious, one of the most ambitious people I've ever.
And so in my head, he kind of shines as one of those people that you're like, man, he had a lot of confidence. And it's not like he always, so I think some people maybe thought he was arrogant, but I worked with him on a lot of stuff and he wasn't. He was very humbled by doing the work. And he was one of those people that's like kind of on that far end of the spectrum of like, he's not at college. You know what I mean?
Right.
When I say that, like he's not, he's at a professional acting program. We all are, but that's where he's at here. And a lot of us are like, and college.
Right.
And it's the weekend and fucking Saturday night. I'm going to go to the thing and fucking have a drink and chill out. And I would in my head, as I look back and I think of you as a person, I put you closer to that kind of J Major's side of the thing. Not that you didn't, but like confidence wise, but your seriousness of character was on this side. Like you felt chill to me. You did not feel like a person who was strung up or tense.
Yeah. The notion of I take my work seriously. I don't take myself too seriously. Like
that's great, dude. I think that's the right combo.
Yeah, I do too. And I mean, for me, it makes me happier as a person. But as I find that it makes the work more accessible. You know, if I'm too caught up, and sometimes I am, depending on the day. But if you get too caught up in like what I'm trying to present as a person, you know, like how serious I am as an artist or as an actor or as a musician or whatever, you know, I think you kind of are limiting the scope of when you're looking at the character, right?
Yeah.
If you can be open and more relaxed, you can, there's more available to you.
And you want to be someone people want to work with.
Well,
these are group projects we're talking about in all situations.
Right.
You need people who are like,
so all these reasons
want to be
are
hanging around Luke during the day.
Yeah. But it's just, you know, that's what works for me.
That's
so
awesome,
far.
dude.
Yeah.
It really sounds like things, you know, I mean, it's good you're humble. I'm glad you're not like an arrogant asshole about it. But I do think, especially with the opportunities you've had to work so much, and so regularly without the much feared 2-year plus dry spell. Which again, if it comes, I still think you're an actor in my heart, buddy. No matter what. If you need the call, hit me up.
I might be calling, 3 in the morning.
Remind you.
I don't know if I'm an actor.
It's okay. It's okay. Yeah, no, and I'm good at that. I've dated some high maintenance chicks, so I'm very much ready.
I'm a high maintenance chick, man.
And I'm ready to talk you down.
Yeah.
That's so great. When do you wrap up the tour?
July of next year. We're wrapping up on my 37th birthday.
Oh, hell yeah.
July 2nd in Hartford, Connecticut.
Dude, you look fucking great for 37.
Oh, thank you. I do really appreciate that.
As long as you still look this way in July.
Well, who knows?
Look
who
great
knows
for
what'll
37.
happen. Yeah. We never know what tomorrow brings. But slated till mid-July. And this is city 19 of 44. So we, got a lot more towns to visit. So if people are, check out the schedule, come check us out.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you get a chance, honestly, if you get a chance to see To Kill a Mockingbird done by a professional company before you have to see your nephews play at high school, I highly recommend it. It will be a lot easier to get through when you are forced to see the high school play production or, God forbid, 7th grade theater production of it. Because they do that shit, man. They do that play young, and the kids do it, and they do the courtroom thing and the whole,
Right.
And it's kind of like Our Town.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, that was the first play I was ever in.
Sure.
In like the 8th grade.
Yeah.
And it was excruciatingly unwatchable. I remember.
Yeah, I've been in my share of excruciatingly unwatchable things.
It's a play about life from beginning to end.
But boy,
what business do you have at 12 trying to explain that to a crowd of people? It
happens all the time, that play. Yeah, for sure.
It's a good learning experience. But yeah, if you get a chance to see Our Town for a professional company, if you get a chance to see To Kill a Mockingbird, there's some plays out there that like King John. Don't go see the high school King John.
Right.
Go see if you can get a chance to see it pro first.
Yeah.
At least then you'll have the imagery and the story in your head before you have to sit through the one that's like, I think it's supposed to be 4 hours.
Right.
That seems long. And see the Sorkin version.
Yeah. I
bet it's dope.
It's great. And there's a musicality to his writing that I really appreciate, as a music, like there's just rhythms that when it's there, you follow it, and
rhythm
is
definitely a Sorkin element.
Yeah.
It's not like compare it to like a Tarantino writing or something where you're like, he is not in a hurry,
right? Right.
And we're playing like bars of the same note, and which have detail and nuance, and it's amazing. Don't get me wrong, love Quentin Tarantino, but Sorkin's he's up tempo.
Yeah, very up tempo. And if you try to resist it, it's not going to work.
Right.
You gotta just
and I almost feel like sometimes with his writing, that's one of the reasons why I love like being able to like stream stuff that he's made, because I'm like, I need to go back. I got behind the beat a little bit, and they've covered too many things too fast for me, and it's my fault. I wish I fully don't blame him being like, this is too dense. I'm like, no, I need to catch up.
But sometimes with him and with good writing, like I'll have those moments where I lost a little bit. Like it almost doesn't even matter because like the information is secondary to the rhythm that's happening between the two people.
Like the moment thing we were talking about before, you lose the line. Yeah, that's okay because we're gonna keep going with what we're doing here. That's awesome, dude. I'm really glad that you stopped by to do this.
Yeah, thanks, man. This is fun.
Blast. And I love doing this show because I love that I get to catch up with people that I haven't seen in a decade's time.
Yeah, it's a valuable resource to us pickles. So keep doing it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Any final thoughts? Any wrap up ideas or anything that occurred to you?
Let's see, I'm the most confident person you've ever interviewed.
Right. Easily.
No
contest.
So I'm glad I put that out there. No,
Did I convince you at all that you'll always be an actor? Are you going to take some of that with you?
Here's what I wanted to say. The one thing that the tour has provided me is, I see a lot of people from my youth, in different towns I don't get to see.
Sure.
And it's forced me to kind of think about who I was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, or anywhere in between. And in the context of what you're saying is like, I've been doing plays since I was like, I don't know, 10, 11, 12, and even though Luke has evolved over those 25 years, like that has been a constant. So, and that is something I had thought about even outside of our interview. And so you are right that, that's something that I appreciate and don't take for granted.
Well, I never want to tell anybody what to think. No,
I know what you're, I don't take it that way at all.
It's not at all of like, you have the wrong mindset.
It's just like, let's look at the facts here.
Well, right? And I'm one of the things in life that is so crucial to me. And I do this in everything I work on. It is a big deal to me. Credit where credit's due. Mm-hmm. I say it all the time. Mm-hmm. It means a lot to me. I try really hard to speak in an articulate way that includes that when I talk about stuff. I might be glib and say like, I made this TV show. I'm very aware that I did not make it alone. Mm-hmm. And, when I have an assistant director or an associate producer on TV shows and stuff like that, it is just as important to me that they feel like they're getting what they want out of it and that they know they're contributing to what we're doing. And if they don't feel like they're really contributing, because I've had those jobs before, I'm like, how could we get your thoughts in on this? How could we get your credit? Because the truth is, we have enough work to do as artists and creative people with the way people fucking talk to us at parties to sort out the fact that that's unfair and they're not talking to us like they would somebody else that has an equally legitimate job. Mm-hmm. Oh, are you lawyering lately? Where will I see you lawyer next? Like, fuck you. I went to law school and I practice law. I have a case this week. I'm not a lawyer. Like, and again, it's the way it's treated. And that, of course, comes out of the fact that there are so many people who try to make a career out of a certain art form or what may be a hobby at one point or a side hustle, and they try to make it their full-time thing, and it doesn't happen. Enough of those take place. All those people at the parties hear those stories, and then when they encounter you, you know, it's like I see someone who's like, I'm a comedian and a teacher, and I'm like, okay. And in my head, I can't help but be like, so you're mostly a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you were a comedian in a really serious way, you might say something closer to like, oh, I'm a comedian. Every now and then between stuff, I'll take teaching gigs.
Mm-hmm. And
you'll clarify it because you'll know that's true and you'll want everybody to know that that's what the case is.
Mm-hmm.
But when you say I'm these two things, just say you're a teacher, man. Mm-hmm. Oh, and I also do comedy. Like, let's be honest about what's going on. I'm one of those assholes at the party. Let's be honest. As well, because we've all been pre-programmed to think of the art as kind of a less legitimate gig, which is bullshit. Because it's just as serious of a trade as being a carpenter or being a blacksmith or any of those fucking old school things. Still those jobs, but like it deserves the credit. And especially if you've been working every year for 11 years and doing plays for like 25 years, bro, you're an actor, and I'm happy to know you, and I'm happy to have you on the show.
Happy to be here.
Thanks, dude.
Thank you, man.